Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another offering episode of Expected Buffalo, the podcast. We are brought to you by One Pie Pizza, onepiepizza.com, located 2185 Clinton Street, open daily from 9 to 8. In Hiller and Comerford, hillercomerford.com, 1866 Hiller Law for your local personal injury and disability go-to. So I figured I would get on here. We had a nice win over the weekend to somewhat salvage a 4-game road trip for the Sabres with their comeback win over the Detroit Red Wings. We got Rasmus Dahlin to come back. But what we're going to get into here for the majority of this, 15-ish minutes that I go on here, is we're going to get a little bit to the Alex Tuch situation with Adrian Kempe getting a new contract, and then we're going to go ahead and preview tomorrow or today's game against the Edmonton Oilers to kick off a 4-game homestand for the Sabres to really maybe determine fully, what the direction of this season is going to be. Before we get into that, though, as I was saying, I do want to give credit to being down 4-1 on the road in Detroit when really, they could have just walked away from that. It could have been, you would hate to say the nail in the coffin at game 18, but really that could have been the one that put them down. They could have just went away. And to their credit, they didn't. They fought back. They came back down from that 4-1 score, and they even won a game in overtime, believe it or not. Tage Thompson back in the middle playing center looks like a different player, looks like the player that we've seen over the last few years. So that's good and encouraging for this team moving forward, that the good players are starting to step up and be impactful. And, of course, getting Rasmus Dahlin back is huge. He's honestly back earlier than I thought he would be. He looked decent, I would say, in his first game back, and it was nice to see that he was able to jump right back in because he kept skating when he was overseas, looking after his fiance, and it's great to hear that she's doing well as well. So that's all encouraging thing, and it's good to have Dahlin back because I think that helps them. And one of the reasons that I was down on them trying to do much or trying to recover here as the season goes along, because I expected him to be out a little bit longer. So having him back definitely changes the picture a little bit. We'll see how much moving forward. But, of course, when there is good news, there has to be some injury bad news that goes along with it. And Michael Kessling and Owen Power looked like a dynamic pair for 40 minutes or so of that game on Saturday, right? Yeah, Saturday. And Kessling goes down with another injury. Looks like it's going to be some time. And it's just, it's deflating that they were that close to really having optimal pairs with Dahlin and the way Samuelson's playing on that first pair. And then you had your Byram and Timmon to be your third pair. It looked like things were starting to come together really well for them defensively. And there's another one out. So it's going to be interesting what they do. I do find it a little bit curious that they haven't made a recall yet. I guess they don't really have to. They were off today, and then the game is tomorrow, so they can call somebody up overnight and then have that player ready to go. With I'm assuming Kessling going back on IR. It's only a 90-minute drive down from Rochester or so to get that player to practice in the morning, and then I'm sure they might even be in town already, ready for that, and then able to at least be in the press box as a backup. With the assuming Jacob Bryson would then step back in to the lineup if Kessling does indeed miss time. We'll see if anybody is on the ice tomorrow. We'll see if Jason Zucker is feeling better. Maybe he gets on the ice. We'll see if Zach Benson has found his way back on the ice after that ankle injury that has been longer than they anticipated for sure. So we'll see if he finds his way back on the ice. And somebody that I'm keeping an eye on, and I don't know if it'll be soon, but Josh Norris has been skating for roughly maybe 2 weeks now. So I wonder if he's maybe not tomorrow, but at some point this week we start to see him creep into practice. Maybe not. Maybe it's a slow go, and I still think the end of November maybe makes some sense beginning of December, but if he's progressing well and they start to get him in practice and get him closer and closer to getting back in, That'll certainly help. I'm, of course, as I've said numerous times, not banking anything until I see him play in this team for at least more than a week, because that has not happened yet to this point. But, if they do get him back, that'll surely help and start to get some reinforcements here as we move along towards Thanksgiving, which is always an important mark because, teams who are not within a certain percentage or a certain point total, I forget what the exact number is, it's difficult for them to make the playoffs. You don't see that very often. So picking up some wins here in this 4-game homestand is going to be critical. They have the Oilers, like I said, on Monday, Calgary on Wednesday, Chicago on Friday, and they wrap it up with Carolina on Sunday. Big games. Ideally, you'd 3 out of 4 there would be what I'm aiming for, but maybe I don't want to get greedy. So there's a possible 8 points on the board. Can you get me 4 or 5? Maybe that's realistic with where this roster is still from an injury standpoint. I guess that would be where I'm aiming for here. All right, so let's get into what I really want to talk about, because again, we're not supposed to go that far. We're in a time limit, which makes these ones not full episodes. So let's jump right into the Alex Tuch situation, because that's really what I want to dig my teeth into a lot here, because it's Adrian Kempe got his new deal, 8 years, $10.625 million annual average value. That is the direct comp essentially to Alex Tuch. It is the same age, same position, and relatively pretty similar production. There were some years that Tuch produced more, some years that Kempe produced more, but still overall the last few years in that same neighborhood. So he winds up with a $10.625 million cap hit, which then likely you would think maybe it's not right at Kempe's level. Maybe it is exactly at Kempe's level. But either way, you're looking $10 million to $10.6 million is that range for Alex Tuch. So is that something the Sabres want to do? And it's not just the cap hit, but is it the 8 years, 7 years? Yeah, I don't see a scenario here where they're going to get less than that. I just don't. It's going to be 7 or 8 years, and it's going to be 10 plus. So what's the desire to do that? And it's weird for me, because if you would ask me this question 2-3 months ago, I would have said that the Sabres need to find a way to get it done with Tuch, and they need to have him on this team. And it's, significance of keeping that player and being a real organization that keeps your good players around, especially a local player, and, all of that stuff that goes with it from a public relations standpoint. But now as the season has gone along, as I've thought about it more, I find myself wavering more towards on the other side of the fence where, well, maybe giving a guy who's going to turn 30 in May, a $10.6 million contract for 8 years isn't the best idea. And it's frustrating because I think they probably could have got this done for 10, maybe a little under 10, if they would have really dug in July and August, when you really had Nikolai Ehlers as your main comparable, as a guy who's a free agent, 29 years old, who just signed on the open market with Carolina. His cap hit percentage was 8.9%. Now you're in a scenario where these last few guys, including Kempe here, are up over 10% of the cap hit percentage. So, that was what has pushed Tuch up over $10 million, most likely. And you can't even really hang your hat on, well, the production isn't there. He's on pace for 30 goals again. He's one of the last remaining big names that's going to be free agent next season. So that works in his favor. The Sabres don't have anywhere to negotiate here, really. Their backs are against the wall. This kind of, in a sense, I think got away from them, letting this get into the season, and that was one of the risks of doing so. Maybe they banked on some things going their way. Well, it hasn't. So now they find themselves in this spot. And for me, I think what it comes down to is you can have debates about, should they pay him? Should they not pay him? Should they trade him? If they trade him, it's going to be a futures deal. Do you want to do that? And all the whatever of that. I mean, we have some time here as this unfolds to get into what a return would be and all of that. I don't think we really need to do that today. We'll see where that unfolds over the next couple of weeks. If that's a where we seem like we're headed, and what teams come out of the mix here as real suitors for Tuch services. But where I come back to is, are the Sabres willing to play ball in the category of structuring of this contract? If you look at where things are going now with these big player contracts, the structure of it is extremely important. And this is a team that historically has not committed bonuses beyond year one in a contract. And if you look at what some of these other guys have had, I mean, I'll just run down it for you. Natchez is getting $55.9 million, or 61% of his total contract in the first 4 years. Ehlers is getting 56% of the total dollar value first 3 years. Kyle Connor is getting 59% of his total contract in the first 4 years. More than half of the contract is being paid out in the first half of these deals. And why that is significant, because that is a straight cash investment from the ownership. So is this owner willing to make a cash investment up front and front load a contract to be competitive in the market, to get a player, if they do decide they want to keep him, to sign a contract with what it's going to take? You can debate that amongst yourselves. I mean, just straight look at a couple things here. Look at the comments from Kevin Adams in Matthew Fairbairn's piece. It was shared on Twitter. Something that you can find it on there. You can see how he really stumbles talking through why they don't give out bonuses, basically without saying it's an ownership decision, that it's an ownership decision. And they just haven't done it with anybody. They didn't even do it with Dahlin. And if you're not doing that with Dahlin, why would Alex Tuch get that? Now, you can make an argument the market has changed, and that's what guys get now. But it doesn't seem like that they're willing to do that. And I wonder if that's part of the holdup here. I wonder if that is what prevented something from getting done before the season started, when they were making progress, and then it just stalled out. And then it came the agents' comments of they put it on hold because it's a slow start, and now we're a month into the season and it's not getting any better from the Sabre side of things. It's going to be an interesting story to follow as we go here. And this is one of the reasons that if they were going to do it, I thought that they should get it done before the season, or very early in the season. Because we are in the middle of November now and we're having conversations about it. You can make arguments about how he's looked as, on the ice, not as engaged, not as, I don't want to say committed. That's not fair, but just, I think engaged is the right word. Just something just looks different about it when you watch Alex Tuch the last few years to what he has been this season. And the production, I guess, is still there. Sure. There's a lot of games where he's just invisible, where he's not as hard as he is on the walls or on the forecheck or defensively. It's just, there's not that extra level. And you don't blame him for a guy in the last year of a contract. I mean, I could see him trying to, protect himself a little bit while still playing within his game and, being able to do what he can do to be an impactful player. I can understand mentally just a player being like, I'm not going to go all out. 5 year in my contract, and I don't want to get hurt, and then that hurts me financially, and all that. That's really the one risk that he's running, is him having an injury, which will reduce the amount of money that he'll be able to make. That is the only risk here that Tuch is taking. Other than that, all the risk is on the Sabre side, and it is burying them to this point. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. We'll see how that goes over the next couple weeks to months, whatever, as this season progresses along. And I'm sure we'll have many more conversations, about that. And then where I wanted to end here is a quick look at tomorrow or today's game. The Edmonton Oilers are in town. Connor McDavid, that's always fun to watch. Leon Draisaitl, two of the best offensive players in the league. Always fun to watch and get a view of them in Buffalo. the big, I won't say the big storyline, but a storyline that's maybe a little bit under the radar in this is that Matt Savoy, the Sabres 2022 ninth overall pick, is making his first return to Buffalo since he was traded away for Ryan McLeod. He has played 20 games so far this season, 2 goals and 5 points. He has 3 points in his last 5 games. But the Oilers are giving him the opportunity to make an impact. He's playing with McDavid and Hyman on the top line. So really getting an opportunity. He's getting some power play minutes. He's also seeing some penalty kill time. A good opportunity. He's only 21 years old still. So we'll see Savoy back with maybe a little bit of motivation, against the team that drafted you, that traded you away, to show them it was a mistake. And McLeod will play his former team for, I think, it'll be the third time now. But yeah, this is the first time we're going to get a look at the other side of it. We've seen McLeod have his moments against the Oilers, but now it's time for the other part of that trade here to see if it can come back and stuff that back in the Sabres face. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and to see how Savoy looks. I've caught glimpses of a few games here and there, not a full game or anything, or a long, or a ton of shifts, I guess you could say, of particular games, maybe a period or two here and there. So it'll be good to see a full game of him and see what he looks like and how he's playing and, what is working and not working for him so far at this level. Moving beyond that, when you talk about the Edmonton Oilers, the obvious thing you're going to go to with one of their weaknesses is going to be their goaltenders. So Skinner is 30th in the league in goals saved above expected in Evolving Hockey's model. Pickard is 65th. Now we're not going to see him. We're probably going to see Skinner. The Oilers have back-to-back games on Wednesday and Thursday, so that's when they'll split and get their backup in. So we're definitely going to see Skinner tomorrow. But it's, you get on him early. Put a couple goals by him, have him thinking about it. Don't let him. I always notice that Skinner, it's when you let him settle in is when I think, teams have trouble against him. I think if you get to him early, you're kind of make him feel uncomfortable at the very least. That's when you're able to get him. But let him get comfortable, let him settle into the game, provides him the opportunity to play well because he can do it. He's shown he is capable of it. So I think getting to them early is going to be important, and putting pressure on it, making him feel comfortable is going to be important if the Sabres want to try to get 2 points in this game. And then lastly, this was interesting going through the numbers. Not a common thing for the Edmonton Oilers, but when you look at their 5-on-5 numbers and you look at their power play numbers, one of the things the Sabres are going to need to do, you always want to stay out of the penalty box against the Oilers, but I think in particular right now, it has to be a focus. They're not going to play a clean game, of course, but that power play is lethal. They are third in the league in goals for per hour on the power play, so they are scoring still at a significantly high rate. And they have 2 of the best players in the world, and they're always going to eat you up and they're going to get you. So, the Sabres still have that top. Well, I have to double check, actually. I don't know if it's the top penalty kill in the league anymore after giving up a couple to the Red Wings. But either way, they're at the top of the league still, and for the most part, it has been good. You really don't want to roll that dice too many times. I think you want to try to stay out of the box as much as possible. And the reason is that 5-on-5 so far this season, the Oilers have not been very good with their scoring. They are 2.46 expected goals for per hour, which is 28th in the league at 5-on-5. Their scoring is 2.13 goals for per hour, which is 27th in the league. They are not scoring at a high rate at 5-on-5. So if you can keep the game at 5-on-5, or at least just keep their power play off of the ice, the way it's going right now, it increases your chances of beating that team. Because let's be real, the Oilers are a better team than the Sabres, and you're going to have some things go your way to beat that team. So stay out of the penalty box, get to their goalie early, make them feel uncomfortable. Obviously, try to contain McDavid and Draisaitl the best of your ability. McLeod has done that pretty well in the few opportunities he's had to match up against McDavid. And then we'll see how Savoy does. That'll be fun to watch, something to talk about, a little bit more of an intrigue in this matchup between an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference team. And then we'll, move along the rest of the week with the other 3 home games, and hopefully they get some bodies back and start to roll in the right direction here. They lost a lot of games. They're not by any means out of it in the Eastern Conference. It's pretty tight. You just got to keep winning your games, picking up your points, and, see if you can climb your way back out of the small hole, not significant yet, that you've built for yourself and get yourself back in the conversation here through this homestand. If you don't, then we might be having a completely different conversation about where we're going here next week. So thanks for listening. We do, by the way, have our first ever Red and Black week, which you will see more on that tomorrow or Monday. So be on the lookout for that. Post what that means, discounted rates, other fun things that we have going on throughout the week. So that'll be pretty fun. And yeah, I think that is it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk soon. See ya.